joy to welcome you this afternoon to this beautiful shrine of Blessed Stanley Rother to honor Our Lady of Guadalupe, the patroness of the Americas, the star of the new evangelization. Today we are recalling and celebrating the extraordinary events that occurred in 1531. Probably everyone in this church is familiar with the basic thrust and arc of the narrative of those events. But if you would recall, in 1492, when Europeans first sailed the wide seas and settled upon this, what was for them a new world, they immediately began the effort to launch a process of evangelization, discovering that the people in this new continent, this new world, had not yet, of course, had the opportunity to hear the gospel. And so missionaries were sent, devout, fervent Franciscan, Dominican, much later Jesuit missionaries, to bring the gospel to the people of this new land. It was at first a rather fruitless endeavor. For the first 20 years or so, the missionaries' efforts and labors met with very little response in terms of conversions and baptisms. But all of that changed in 1531 when a indigenous peasant who had been a catechumen and perhaps had already recently been baptized or was about to be baptized, Juan Diego, was on his way for a catechism class from the village where he lived to the city of Mexico, where he was intercepted, if you will, by a strange vision of a woman, a beautiful woman, who got his attention and asked him to take a message to the Bishop of Mexico, Bishop Zumárraga. And Juan Diego thought himself totally unfit and unworthy for such a mission to such an exalted personage, and he tried to avoid the charge that was laid upon him. The lady prevailed upon him. He went and presented himself to the bishop's palace, only to be rebuffed and sent away. This occurred more than once. Juan Diego, as his name was discouraged by this rebuff, and when he was on his way once again back to Mexico from his native village, he was intercepted by this mysterious, beautiful woman once again, and he gave her all kinds of excuses why she had the wrong guy. She needed to choose somebody who was much more important and impressive, who could speak to bishops and kings and princes and people of influence. And she would not be dissuaded of her choice of this humble peasant, Juan Diego. He went again and ultimately was rebuffed a second time. And the story goes, as you know, that when he returned once more, he was trying to avoid an encounter with this woman because his uncle was ill and he needed to get to a doctor to bring medical care to his uncle who was very sick. He tried to avoid the lady, but in this instance, she intercepted him once again and appeared to him this time and presented herself to him, and he told her that the bishop had requested a sign that he might believe, that he might understand. So far, the sign had not been given. This time, however, the sign was given to him, when he ascended the hillside and found the lady once again. She appeared to him and there were roses and flowers, exotic flowers blooming on the mountaintop in December, a very cold and frigid December day, but the flowers were in full bloom and splendor. And she instructed him to fill his tilma with these beautiful flowers and to take them to the bishop. So he bent down and filled his tilma with the flowers, thinking that surely this must be the sign that the bishop had requested, and maybe now the bishop will believe. He returned once again to the bishop's palace, and this time when he was admitted, he opened his tilma, and the flowers tumbled down upon the floor in front of the bishop, who stood there aghast in amazement at what he beheld. But he was beholding not the beautiful flowers, but the image that had appeared on the rude and crude tilma of Juan Diego, the peasant. This image of the woman, which had been miraculously impressed upon the tilma. That began the story of what has been and remains the most extraordinary chapter in the history of evangelization in the whole history of the Church. Over the course of the next 10 years or so, 9 million people, a whole nation was converted, was baptized. This was truly the start of the evangelization of the American continent. The start of a new evangelization. Mary is, under the title of Our Lady of Guadalupe, the patroness not just of Mexico, which has a special claim on her affection, but of all of the Americas, because it was through Mary that the gospel of Jesus Christ was brought to this new continent, to this new world. And it was through Mary that the gospel took root in the hearts, in the minds, the imagination, the souls of this new people. So today we are celebrating that marvelous rich history. We're honoring Mary, giving thanks to God for choosing the humble servant Juan Diego to be her chosen instrument of bringing the gospel to a new world, to a new people, to a new continent. That work of evangelization continues, and we are called each in our own way in virtue of our baptism to carry forward that message of proclaiming and bearing witness to the gospel of Jesus Christ. Perhaps we think that God could have chosen more fitting instruments than you or I, aware as we are of our limitations. But as Our Lady said to Juan Diego, am I not your mother, who can do all things in you and through you? Be not afraid, have no fear. So today we're renewing our awareness and our appreciation for the fact that all of us are called to be witnesses of Jesus Christ, to continue the work of this new evangelization, the evangelization that began on Pentecost, that received a fresh impetus in 1531, but which continues today because there are still cultures and lands and nations to be evangelized right here in our continent, the American continent, North, South, Central America. There's work to be done. The gospel of Jesus Christ must be presented and proposed to a land of people, a culture that is increasingly without faith. Not much different than the world into which the 12 had been sent after the first Pentecost, and like the world to which Our Lady presented herself in 1531. Today we have much work to do to bear witness to Jesus Christ in a credible way, to present and propose the gospel to the people of our time and our culture in a way that will be credible, understandable, and effective. So we pray for the intercession of Our Lady of Guadalupe, that she might bless the efforts of the Church in our time, in our day, in our land, in our culture, in our nation, in our Archdiocese, to help us to be credible witnesses to the gospel of Jesus Christ, to draw others to Jesus, even as the Lord drew Juan Diego to Mary, and through Mary to her son. We pray that the Lord would continue to bless the Church in our land and that Our Lady of Guadalupe might continue to manifest herself as our mother, to give us courage, give us confidence in bearing witness to Jesus Christ. God bless you.